Hi, everyone. I am your host, Cindy, and welcome to my next episode. I'm so excited to give you a sneak peek into what my next series is going to be about. So, I just closed out on last month's or this month's series, which I talked about finances and dating. So, dating in the sense of like just starting off to meet somebody, you're having a good time, and there's no relationship yet, but you're just dating. Now, this series coming up will focus on vital topics that should be discussed in relationships, serious relationships, and these can be very sensitive. So, I'm going to share helpful tips that can guide you with approaching these topics. So, you don't want to miss out on this. Now, today's episode is called The Love Blueprint. It's a sneak peek into next month's relationship series. So, I want to share a few things. Some of the topics that I want to highlight in the upcoming episodes, I'm going to go into greater detail about financial compatibility and are we on the same page? Also, talking about shared goals, the importance of aligning on financial goals, avoiding those misunderstandings. Different money mindsets can lead to conflict. So, just having to avoid those conflicts. Also, building trust. Transparency is very key when it comes to finances because it helps to build that trust. I'm also going to be going into talking about bank accounts and boundaries. What's mine? What's yours? What is ours? Setting clear expectations and discussing whether to have a joint account or a separate account. Also, defining what those financial boundaries are. Money is very personal. So, having clear boundaries prevents your partner from feeling overstepped or undervalued. Also, teamwork. Financial discussions pave the way for teamwork together in a relationship. And it's no longer your money, it's no longer my money, but it's our approach to finances. Then I will also be talking about debt, money talk, and disclosures. Full honesty for a stronger bond. Honesty is non negotiable in this. Hiding your debt or other financial issues can create major trust problems. So, I'm going to be covering that. And, mutual support, understanding each other's financial situations, whether it's debt or income, will enable you to support one another as well and also avoid future shock. Why? Right, because full disclosure means that there are no surprises. Throw it out all on the table. Just be open and honest about it. And lastly, I'll be talking about building a foundation for forever. So it's about teamwork, trust, and future planning. And this is so essential because it sets the stage for a strong, healthy, and enduring, peaceful relationship. And ultimately, a foundation for forever ensures that the relationship is not just surviving, but it's thriving. And it's about creating a partnership that endures life's ups and downs while fostering love, chemistry, connection, and purpose along the way. So, addressing finances early on will strengthen the partnership in three critical ways: security, communication, and alignment. And ultimately, these discussions are not just about money, they are about building a foundation for trust, respect, and mutual understanding. When love and finances finally align, the path to forever becomes stronger and much more clear. So, I want to share a story with you. I had a client, actually, a couple who came to me for my financial coaching services. Now, I don't offer financial coaching one on one services anymore. I did. I still have the individuals and couples that still come to me from time to time, which is a lifetime guarantee. So, I usually like to keep up with my couples and making sure that they're headed in the right direction. And, but I don't offer that anymore. However, I still have couples that from time to time, I mean, I don't mind you reaching out and, asking a few things here and there, but I had a couple who were names Jamie and Alex. They had been dating for 3 years and were now engaged. So they thought they could use some help with me planning how to pay off their combined debt. And they didn't realize that I just didn't focus and emphasize on debt payoff. I also focused on just money management in general and planning for your future as a couple. And so while planning their future together and having conversations with me about it, Jamie had brought up the topic about merging their finances. And I thought, that's great. That's something that I'm a firm believer in. And they had asked me what my thoughts were on that. But Alex had hesitated and said, "Oh, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know about that." And so he said, "What if we have different priorities when it comes to spending? I love treating myself to tech gadgets, but I prefer saving for, but you prefer saving for vacation." So you have Alex on one hand who loves treating himself and, buying tech gadgets, and he's all into all of that, right? And then you have Jamie, who prefers saving for vacations. She loves to travel, and it's something that she's always done. So Jamie kind of laughed about it, but then she said, that's exactly why we need to talk about it. We're building a life together, and it's important to figure out how we handle money as a team. And I immediately jumped in and I said, you know what? I absolutely agree with you, Jamie. Being engaged at this point, it's such a great time to start brainstorming on each other's finances and talk about how things will be handled. So they started brainstorming. They asked each other questions about their spending habits, like what they valued the most, where they might need to compromise. And Jamie had shared her concerns about transparency because she said, I just want to make sure that we don't have any surprises later, like unexpected credit card debt or secret savings account. So Alex had nodded and he acknowledged, the importance of honesty and trust. And he had said, how about we meet in the middle? We keep a separate accounts for personal spending, but then we create a joint account for shared expenses like our rent and our groceries and big trips and such. And Jamie had agreed, and then the conversation kind of just shifted to having, financial boundaries. They talked about setting limits on personal spending. They talked about establishing a plan for savings together. And by the end of the coaching session with me, they both had felt more confident and more aligned, which is great. That's what I want. It wasn't just about money talk, it was a conversation about respect, trust, and teamwork. So, me personally, I tell this story in hopes that it resonates with a lot of you listening. If you are engaged, or maybe you're in a serious relationship about to be engaged, this story not only shows the importance of discussing finances, but it also highlights the relatable challenges that couples typically face when figuring out how to merge two different financial lives. And that's important. So, this is why I cannot stress enough on how important it is to have conversations about finances early on while dating, and not just wait until you are progressing into a relationship or even engaged. I think engagement is too late to discuss finances. If you're at the point of being engaged and you haven't talked about your finances, that's too late. Address it now. Address it before a relationship starts to progress. There's nothing wrong with sharing your perspective, your expectations, and what you value the most. And in my professional opinion, I would recommend that finances be discussed before getting into a relationship. Because once you're in a relationship, it's hard to walk away. And although when you get into a relationship, you start to see things that unravel, and it's like, wow, like you wish you would have addressed it early on. And that is my encouragement here. Talking about money might not be easy, and I know it probably isn't for some, maybe for a lot of people, but it's a powerful way to strengthen love and a relationship and to build on that trust. So, I want to end with this. Financial compatibility is a cornerstone for lasting love. It's not about the money, like I mentioned before, so much as it's about a compatibility. Compatibility is key. It's who you are compatible with not just in connection and chemistry and the things that you enjoy and the interests and stuff, but it's also about finance compatibility. That is super important. These episodes next month will empower listeners to approach money discussions and conversations with confidence. I want you to feel empowered. I want you to feel confident with coming to your partner and talking about money. So, I want to leave you with this lasting thought. When love and money start to align, you are building not just a relationship, but a legacy. So that is it for now. I don't want to get into too much detail because this is just a sneak peek into my next few episodes. But I do invite you to follow me on Instagram, Prosperity and Grace, for tips and updates. I also encourage you to subscribe on YouTube, Apple Music, or Spotify. I actually upload my episodes to those platforms just so that you could stay updated on future episodes. So until then, take care, everyone, and we will talk soon. God bless. Hi, everyone. I am your host, Cindy, and welcome to my next episode. This is an exciting one because this series will focus on vital topics. Now, I just closed out my 4-week series on how finances and how it's relatable to those in relationships that are just, dating, but maybe premature dating, maybe not in a relationship yet, but are just dating. So, I'm giving you a sneak peek into the next few series or the next series, which is the focusing on